plot twist, YouTube will not let me share this podcast in its entirety. Apparently, somebody who has a master's degree from an Ivy League school in virology and immunology, quite literally the study of viruses, who taught virology and immunology at a university level, who actually worked alongside Dr. Fauci, by YouTube standards, is not a credible source to talk about COVID. Never mind the fact that this is 2.5 years after COVID was introduced to the world, as if people don't already have an abundance of information and have made up their mind already. It makes me wonder how much has been suppressed this whole time, and it kind of freaks me out. You know, you hear about people like Joe Rogan getting pushback, and I always kind of took that as people being more upset about the influence and reach somebody like Rogan has, not so much with what he's actually saying. But the fact that my little podcast channel, which is basically non-existent by internet standards, the fact that YouTube will ban that video before it's even made public, not just demonetized. I've gotten plenty of videos demonetized, and that is what it is. If an advertiser doesn't want to associate with a certain kind of content, so be it. But this podcast of the Virologist was legit removed completely. I'm usually one to take things I hear on the news with a grain of salt, thinking, hey, it's on the news because it's rare. The news covers the car accident on the highway, but it doesn't report on the fact that tens of thousands of cars drove on that same highway accident-free. So when I hear about censorship, I usually think these are rare events that are getting the spotlight because they're rare, or they're so extreme, or there's somebody just looking for a headline. But I never thought it was as real and as swift as it was with me, and over a video that was by no means extreme. Give it a listen for yourself. You may disagree with it at times, but I find it hard to believe that there's anything in there that's being said by an accredited virologist, mind you, that somebody would say is too dangerous for the internet. Just didn't fit the narrative, and that's scary to me. Fortunately, it's still available at other places. But here's a short little non-COVID piece of our conversation. And if you want to hear the full show, wherever you listen to podcasts, just search Cheesesteaks with Eddie Doyle or Cheesesteaks with a Virologist. I'm sure it'll pop up either way. Thanks for listening. I'm going to let you do your credentials, okay. But I feel as though I almost had this, like, I hit the lottery during COVID, because she is a former neighbor that I only discovered during COVID actually worked in virology, literally the study of viruses. Now, I may be messing the credentials or the names up, so I'm going to let her explain to her I'm going to let her explain to you exactly what she did. But you've really been a blessing over the course of, especially in the beginning when the world was just totally insane and confused and clueless. You were like this little window into a side that wasn't being presented by anyone on any side, because you had all this information, and, you know, I was able to spend time with you to, like, actually get in depth, you know, as much. Everybody hates the news of the side that isn't theirs. But the one thing about the news that I think is usually forgotten is, like, they have these 2 to 5 minute segments where they're supposed to explain these really complicated things. And I had the privilege of, having, as much time as we wanted for you to explain things. And I was just, like, shocked at everything you said to me. So before we go any further, you worked in Philadelphia at the College of...
Okay, so I have an undergraduate degree in biochemistry from Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science.
College of Pharmacy and Science, that's right.
I also taught there for a while, years later, as the virology teacher, and I did cell biology, microbiology, name it, I did it. And then I have a master's from the University of Pennsylvania in immunology, specifically virus immunology, and I worked in virus research for 10 years. So, yeah. So when this all hit, and I also worked in pharma after I left the academia. I worked in pharma for the rest of my career.
And if I recall, I don't know if you said you worked with Dr. Fauci, but you knew him in some capacity.
We did I was doing this when AIDS hit real big, and in Philadelphia it was very prevalent. So at the time, Dr. Fauci was very keen on finding a vaccine, developing a vaccine against AIDS and or HIV. And so I did some collaborative work with him. I did some studies for him in the Philadelphia area. since I was working in virology, and I was working with the herpes group at Wistar Institute, which is part of the university now. So yeah, I did, and that was probably earlier in his career. I found him to be really generous.
Despite all those credentials and all that experience, her thoughts on this matter is not welcome here on YouTube. So make sure you check out Cheesesteaks with Eddie Doyle or search Cheesesteaks with a Virologist anywhere you listen to podcasts. And here's another little clip about something that I would be very surprised if this got taken off of YouTube. But then again, I was surprised in the first place, so who knows?
I really appreciated hearing your perspective. I appreciate it from everything you had. I've taken up so much of your time.
I know, but then I talk too much too. So.
But you have so much to say, and I love it. So I want to wrap up, but before I do want to ask you about a study that I sent you. The way I heard about it was I was driving in a car with a passenger in the car, and on the radio, the DJ said, a study just came out that says your Uber has more germs than a toilet seat. And I remember looking in my rear view. Unfortunately, she had headphones in. So she maybe she heard it, but she didn't notice it all. I'm like, oh man, that's gross. So I'm like, all right. So I looked it up, and the study shows that there's more germs in a Uber than in a rental car and then in a taxi. And it even goes on to say that there's more germs in a toothbrush holder than in a taxi, but not more than a ride share. And it was just all this crazy stuff. And I looked into it. And the first thing that really caught my eye was they examined 9 cars. So this was 3 Ubers, 3 taxis, and 3 rental cars.
Big
it was
study.
Right there. It's 9 cars. Are you kidding me? But basically, I wanted to ask your opinion on it. But basically, my thinking was it's a nice headline, but you can't tell me that you'd rather, put your tongue on the door handle of an Uber than on a public toilet seat. You know what I mean? And it's I know I use my toothbrush all the time, and I'm not worried about the bacteria. So I just kind of wanted to hear a virologist opinion on how sick. What's the potential of getting sick every time I get in an Uber or every time someone gets in my Uber? Because, there's occasionally I'll be I dropped a piece of food on my seat in the car that someone's just sitting in. I was like, I'm not going to eat that, but I'm if I put my hand there and then I rub my face by accident, am I going to be in the hospital in a day,
No. All right. Biology 101. Our world is filled with bacteria. Our air, our skin, our hair, your hair is filled with bacteria. Okay. Never I remember when I was in school, if we were eating lunch, one of the nuns was, I went to Catholic school. One of the nuns would be if you just happen to touch your hair and then, eat something at lunch, they'd come around and they'd smack your hands. Don't touch your hair and then put food in your mouth and use your hand and put your food in your mouth.
Oh, wow.
Because your hair has tons of bacteria. Your skin is covered with millions of bacteria. Everything in the world is covered with millions of bacteria and viruses, but mostly bacteria. Okay. So they kind of, give you this idea that, oh my gosh, there's millions of bacteria. There's millions of bacteria here. There's millions of bacteria everywhere.
Yeah.
Your skin, you probably have millions and millions of bacteria of all different kinds on your skin naturally, right? But the thing is, they're not all harmful.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're your normal flora. They're helpful to you. They actually protect your skin. A lot of them will protect your skin. Your skin protects you. That is your barrier between, the bacteria that's on your skin, that lives on your skin, and so from you and getting infected. But it's nothing to be it's ridiculous. You can't put yourself in a bubble.
Yeah.
And most of these bacteria, your immune system has come in contact with millions of times.
Gotcha.
Millions of times. So, E. coli, these are bacteria don't change or mutate quite as much as viruses do as they go from person to person. And a lot of these bacteria that they were talking about, E. coli, staph is what's mostly on your skin. staph infections are nasty. So if you are an immunocompromised person, yes, and you have a cut or whatever, and you get a staph infection from that, it can get very, very bad. It can get systemic and whatnot. But again, the conditions have to be right for you to get an infection from any of these common, normal bacteria that are out there. So, like you said, it was a good headline. I wouldn't put much credence. I wouldn't be afraid of it, first of all, because what they were stating was common knowledge.
Gotcha.
That is common knowledge.
That sounds scary.
There's
when you put
more,
it like that. Yeah.
When so there's more in your car than there is. I would say there's more in your car because the material in your car, like this type of stuff, has probably, like the plushy stuff, has more pores, so it collects bacteria much more so. Whereas with your skin, if you shower every day, when you shower, you scrub your skin and you scrub all of the bacteria off. You get it, you wash your hair, all the bacteria. Now it grows back immediately because you get out of the shower, you come in contact with the air, and there's bacteria, and they land on you, and they grow, right? We can't see them, obviously, but they're there. But here, especially in fabrics, they tend to get more stuck and stay in fabrics much more so than they would on your skin.
Now,
or in the air.
This is, armchair doctor. I always thought, I believe maybe you told me, the sun is like a natural
it is.
antibacterial agent. And then I thought in the summertime, it gets so hot in my car. I know heat's bad.
And that's a good thing because it will kill bacteria.
Okay, all right.
It kills bacteria, it kills viruses. Yes. So there are lots of things that denature protein. All of these bacteria, viruses, they're all protein. Okay? Everything. That's the funny thing, like we're all carbon based. I always think it's, like people that are crazy about, it's all organic. And I'm like, everything in the world is organic, okay? Everything is made out of carbon. Everything is carbon based. So everything in the world is organic. I understand what they're trying to say, but organic is really not the word that you should be using because everything is organic. Everything that is carbon based is organic. So, but anyway, so protein, the sun, the UV rays of the sun, they denature protein. So if you have bacteria, viruses, I remember when they closed the beaches, and I remember thinking to myself, that is the most ridiculous thing that they could possibly do. Could there be any safer place on the earth to be
than pure sunlight?
In the sun.
Right.
I mean, the salt water denatures protein. So the ocean, what is it? Salt water. The sun, UV rays, denatures protein.
And I also remember
the sand also has silica and whatnot, which also denatures protein. So the safest place you could possibly be is the stinking beach.
And I also remember you told me in the summertime, heat expands the virus, so it's too big to enter in your cells or something like that. I just remember thinking like, okay, the hotter things are, the better, the safer.
Yes. Well, that's mostly with RNA viruses.
Okay.
That happens.
Not bacteria as much, but
mostly RNA viruses. Yes, they tend to expand, and if they don't become denatured totally, they tend to expand. So but it's not a steadfast rule